Welcome to week 4. I'm excited to move into week 4's focus and into project 4. Project 4 is going to be a collaborative one, and so is project 5. And you'll stay in the same groups for both projects. This is a great opportunity to get to know each other better and work together. I've made 2 important changes to the class syllabus. First, we're going to actually take 2 weeks for project 4. Because it's the first group project and you're going to need time to get to know each other and come up with your approach to getting the work done. Second, I changed the actual project 4 assignment. Initially, I was going to have you guys work in groups and write a profile of a social or cultural entrepreneurial organization. But I have an idea that I think is going to be much more interesting and much more fun. I'll talk more specifically about project 4 in just a minute. In this video, I'm going to introduce our week 4 focus and introduce your project 4 work. Week 4 focuses on audiences. Individuals and organizations involved in social or cultural entrepreneurship have to reach a range of audiences. These include the public, volunteers, funders, from individuals who contribute $5 to a cause through a donate now button on a website to maybe a grant funding organization that provides millions of dollars. The audiences also include policymakers and government officials, and of course the audience includes those the organization is trying to reach out and help in their social or cultural entrepreneurial initiative. To start week 4, I want to talk a bit about creativity and collaboration, both of which are necessary for project 4. In Western culture, when we think about artists, we might bring to mind images like this or this. When we think about writers as creatives, we might bring to mind images like this or this. And generally, we have a really historic and romantic notion of art, of authorship, and of creativity. We see a lone man sitting at his desk, maybe a candle burning, maybe a glass of bourbon at his elbow. He's toiling alone at his craft. He's a creative genius. His creativity is an individual, isolated act. And I think this stereotype applies to other fields beyond writing. And I don't think that these notions really correctly capture creativity as we enact it today in our personal or professional lives. Technologies, changing professional contexts, and more have transformed how we're creative. And I think the spaces that more accurately represent where we work and create look more like this, and this, and this. And further, none of the social and cultural entrepreneurs we've read about in class have worked in isolation. All of the people and all of the project we've explored thus far have been collaborative ventures. Think about what we've read and learned about Blake Mycoskie, the founder and chief shoe giver of Tom's Shoes. Mycoskie was stunned when he found out that many people, especially in developing countries, lack shoes. He met a woman who worked with a volunteer group that held shoe drives in the U.S. to collect and send shoes to people in need. He paired with another guy he knew, and together Tom and Alejo started researching sustainable shoe production in Argentina. He came back to the U.S. and bounced ideas off of friends and colleagues. On his path to more conscious, attentive capitalism, he worked, collaborated with, and led teams of people. And his company reflects this collaborative spirit. If you look for photos or you read articles about or you watch videos by Tom's Shoes, you see a lot of people working and collaborating together. That's just one example. Collaboration is threaded across all social and cultural entrepreneurial projects and work. I recently went to the websites of 3 companies that regularly seek out and hire MSU graduates. First, I went to the careers area of Ford's website. Ford headquarters here in Michigan has an open post for a software engineer in Dearborn. In the job post, they mention collaboration and creativity, and they continue by saying, the distance between imagination and creation It can be measured in years of innovation or in moments of brilliance. When you join the Ford team, you're going to discover the benefits, rewards, and development opportunities. You're going to become part of a team that's already leading the way with ingenious solutions and attainable products. I also looked at Dow Chemical, which has a ton of open posts in supply chain, manufacturing, engineering, and marketing here in the US, in Turkey, China, Brazil, and all over the world. Every job post I looked at asked for candidates with strong specific skills related to the position. For instance, if the position was supply chain, they want people who get logistics and can identify and coordinate resources. But every job post also asks for candidates who have strong interpersonal, communication, and teamwork skills. Finally, I looked at job posts with Target Corporate in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I randomly chose an open job post. It was for a manager in accounting to specifically work on external financial reporting. And again, the job post called for specific accounting and finance related skill. But the job post also called attention to the collaborative and creative aspects of the position. The person would have a responsibility to work closely and collaborate with a variety of other departments. And the job post included the mandatory requirement that the person have demonstrated leadership experience and ability to manage team priorities and the ability to build key working relationships and establish partnerships within the team and across functions. So whether you wind up forging your own path in the world as a social or cultural entrepreneur, you start your own nonprofit, or you launch your socially conscious company, or you wind up working for a business or organization, collaboration matters. And all creative processes require collaboration. Collaboration requires different approaches or techniques. Walt Disney, for instance, was infamous for requiring different types of people to play different roles when he assigned projects and project teams. And when he put together teams, he assigned one person to be the dreamer, one to be the realist, and one to be the spoiler to push the team's thinking forward. Pixar uses the collaborative process of plussing during team projects, where everyone shares ideas and then adds to each other's ideas. IDEO is a design and innovation consulting firm. Their portfolio includes hundreds of innovative, fascinating, fantastic projects with a huge range of partners. IDEO suggests that when its creative teams start work on a project, they defer judgment, encourage wild ideas, build on each other's ideas, stay focused, and more. You will be working collaboratively on Project 4, so I hope you'll try out some of these techniques and others. Collaboration doesn't just magically happen. It has to be nurtured and fostered. Our readings for week 4 focuses on audiences from a broad perspective, and I'm also trying to keep the readings for weeks 4, 5, and 6 relatively light because you're going to do some researching, drafting, and collaborating as you work on both Project 4 and Project 5. You're going to be doing a lot of reading outside of the required class materials. You'll be doing reading specifically related to research for your projects. We're going to start this week with a chapter called The Ecosystems, in which the authors describe the larger, broader context of social entrepreneurial work. You can't work in isolation. You can't exist in a vacuum. Work happens within larger networks, or as these authors argue, ecosystems. Then we're going to read a 4-part series from a book called The Problem Solvers: Social Entrepreneurs in America. The book is chunked into 4 sections, and each section ends with a conversation. We're going to read those conversations. First, between entrepreneurs, funders, and investors, thinkers and innovators, and finally between champions, the necessary supporters of social entrepreneurial projects. This is an interesting way to think about different audiences for social and cultural entrepreneurial projects. There are 2 cases for this week. The first is a Forbes article called 30 Under 30, focused on young social entrepreneurs. Skim through these and maybe read deeply into the profiles of a couple people who really interest you. The last case is an interview with a cultural entrepreneur, the author of Boomtown. And we have 1 spark, which is information about the Skoll Awards for Social Entrepreneurship, which should help you generate some ideas for Project 4. Boom. Project 4 is a collaborative project. I'm going to assign you to a creativity cluster of 4 or 5 other people you'll be working with. For Project 4, you've joined a task force. Your job is to advise the Director of Undergraduate Entrepreneurship at MSU about how to launch a new undergraduate student social or cultural entrepreneurship award. There are a lot more details and specifics in the Project 4 overview on D2L. I want to talk about a couple of Project 4 logistics. Again, for Project 4, you're going to collaborate and you're going to propose. You're going to come up with an idea and steps for a new MSU award to recognize undergraduate social and/or cultural entrepreneurship. You're going to present your ideas in the form of a short memo, 3 to 4 pages, to the Director of Undergraduate Entrepreneurship here at MSU. So, first, review the Project 4 assignment thoroughly and carefully. Understand what you're expected to do and what moves you're expected to make. I will assign you guys to a creativity cluster and create a folder for your group on MSU Google Drive. And you must log in using your MSU Net ID, not your personal Google account if you have a personal Google account. And I'll send out information and connect you guys to your groups either Sunday, June 5th or Monday, June 6th. Next, you're going to want to review the Project 4 memo template on Google Drive. Memos are a particular written genre, and they have certain conventions that I want you to follow in your Project 4 work. Once you have a sense of what you need to do in your memo, you want to connect with your group members and figure out who's good at what and who wants to take on what. I would like the workload to be relatively shared. That is, I want everyone to contribute. But you can contribute to your group's work in different ways. Regardless of how you work, though, the final version of your memo should read as a collaboratively crafted document. You should be writing as we, and the section should flow and be edited so that it sounds like the same people wrote the whole document rather than different chunks with different voices, different styles, etc. So, some week 4 suggested priorities. We're going to spend 2 weeks on Project 4. This week, I'd suggest, again, review the Project 4 assignment carefully. Take a look at the memo template on Google Drive. Then this week in your creativity clusters, connect with your partners, introduce yourself, share contact information, do some initial research, look at existing awards at MSU and beyond, brainstorm and gather ideas, start doing some research and drafting chunks of your memo. As we move into week 5, I'm going to touch base with you guys again with some next step suggestions for continuing your work and wrapping up your Project 4 memo. And the final version is going to be due by noon on Sunday, June 19th. I've noticed from your D2L logins and activities that some of you don't really check into class until Thursday or Friday. You won't be able to do this during weeks 4, 5, and 6 because you're going to be working with a group. You're going to need to check in early in the week with your creativity cluster. If you can't do a ton of work until the weekend, that's fine, but make sure that your other group members know when you're available, what you want to be responsible for, and how you're going to check in with them. So share contact information early on and talk about the roles you'll each play in your group and as you work specifically this week on Project 4. Happy week 4. Happy collaborating.